for southern Jeff Davis Parish. So unfortunately, this is why, at least for the moment, we have to cut into programming, and as soon as we can, we'll try to get us back to regularly scheduled programming. But for now, we'll at least take a look at what is going on. So obviously, you see here across southwest Louisiana, a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity. But here's a close-up at that tornado warning going on in Jeff Davis Parish. You can see basically the tornado warned storm just off to the north of the Bell City area. That's moving off to the east around 15 miles per hour. It's also just south of the Lacassine area as well. I'll take a bit of a closer zoom on it here. It's near Foreman's Hall right now. This is again the storm that we are watching for the potential for a tornado near the Verret vicinity as well. So I'm going to take a look at the velocity here to get an idea of any rotation going on. And thankfully right now, this storm definitely doesn't look quite as impressive as it was a few minutes ago. However, you can still see some broad rotation. I'll let you know where that is. Basically, again, near the Verret vicinity. So wherever you see these green colors here, that's winds moving towards the radar site, so towards the Lake Charles Regional Airport. And the opposite is true for the red colors, that's moving away from the Lake Charles Airport. So basically what I'm looking at for rotation is winds kind of going from east to west on the north side of that cell, and then on the opposite near, again, the Verret vicinity where those two colors meet is where you would have a little bit of rotation going on. But thankfully, again, it looks broad, not as impressive as it was a few minutes ago, but even still, if you are near the Verret vicinity, Bell City, Hayes, you definitely want to get into your safe place as soon as you can. Remember, it's always a good idea to put as many walls between yourself and the outdoors as possible. Stay away from windows as well. So I'm going to take this information off the screen here, and we are going to go back to the regular radar right here. And you can see there is still a little bit of a hook near Verret, so that's kind of what we look for when we're talking about a tornado. Anytime you have kind of this appendage, I'll show where I'm talking about as well, but kind of this appendage, this hook near the Verret vicinity, that's where you'd be watching for rotation and where a tornado, if there is any, where that would form. So again, I'll take a closer look here. I'll zoom in on some of the specific roads here. Again, near the Verret vicinity, Mora Road. Sorry if I mispronounced some of the names here. Jones Road, Arsenault Road, a little bit off to the east. All of those locations, or if you're near those roads, you need, again, to be into your safe place as soon as you can. Again, this is a cell that's moving off to the east around 15 miles per hour. So thankfully not a bit of a fast mover here, but still it is continuing to move off to the east. So now, with that being said, let me take a storm track on this just to give you an idea of where it's headed and some of the arrival times with this storm. So let me update some of the information here. Okay, and I'll zoom out a little bit more. Obviously, you can see the rest of Jeff Davis Parish on this map here. So let me, again, take a bit of a wider storm track here. And again, this is moving basically off to an east-northeasterly direction, so if it holds on this track, it'll be near the Welsh vicinity around 11:36 a.m. So again, if you're in Welsh, you want to get into that safe place as soon as you can. Welsh Roanoke Junior High School around 11:56, near the Jennings vicinity around 12:14, and luckily after that by around 12:30, I do think the cell, if it holds together, will exit Jeff Davis Parish altogether. So again, that's a little bit of good news here. However, we still do have this storm ongoing. So again, if you are basically in southern Jeff Davis Parish here, along and south of I-10, you certainly will want to be into that safe place as soon as you can. So let me take this information off the screen. And I am going to actually take a wider zoom out here because even though we do have this tornado warning in effect, we also have a lot of other rainfall. We've had a pretty active morning in terms of showers and thunderstorms. So I am going to go back to our regular view of the viewing area here. And yeah, you can see there's just been a lot of, really just a lot of rainfall, heavy shower and thunderstorm activity. We'll kind of take a parish by parish view of things here. We'll start over in Cameron Parish, where we do have, again, a lot of that shower and thunderstorm activity, including some heavier thunderstorms now moving through the Hackberry area and across the Sabine Lake. So that activity in the western part of the parish near Sabine Lake will likely be near the Johnson Bayou area within the next half hour. And that thunderstorm in Hackberry is on track to make its way through the Grand Lake area, likely within the same amount of time. Over into Calcasieu Parish here, again, we see a lot of light to moderate rain, but also some embedded downpours, especially just north of the Lake Charles area across portions of Moss Bluff and Sulphur. There's even a flash flood warning in effect for basically the greater part of the lake area, where 1 to 3 inches of rain has already fallen so far today. So, oops, that's not what I wanted to show here. I'm actually going to pull up the 24-hour rainfall estimates so far, and again, this is radar indicated, but you can see basically anywhere where we have these green colors. I'll start near the Sulphur area, where radar's indicating between 2 and 3 inches of rain has already fallen. Of course, these numbers are going to populate and increase farther off to the west as we go out farther in time, but generally, again, I think a general 1 to 3 inches of rainfall already fallen here in southwest Louisiana, and more certainly on the way, closer to Vinton, maybe even in excess of 4 inches in a few spots. Again, at least this is radar indicated rainfall. So the bottom line is we've seen a lot of rain across the parish, including in that flash flood warning. We have, again, that includes basically all the lake area, Lake Charles, Moss Bluff, Sulphur, Carless. So if you encounter any flooded roadways on the roads, it'll still obviously be a better idea to find an alternate route around that, as it can be very difficult to judge the depth of water, and just stay on the safe side. Don't drown, turn around. So let's take a look back to the regular radar here. Before we go back to that tornado warning in Jeff Davis, we will take a look at our northern parishes, where there is still a lot of moderate rainfall activity, some downpours widespread across parts of Beauregard, scratch that most of Beauregard Parish, Allen Parish, and even into Vernon Parish as well. Again, this is at least the individual rain here moving all off to a north and easterly direction. So with that being said, we'll go back to the cell we're tracking for a potential tornado in Jeff Davis Parish, and here it is. You still can make out that hook basically on the southern side of that cell, now just south of the Laxine area, southwest of Foreman's Hall. I'm going to give you an idea of where that is. So basically on the eastern side of that hook, you would have winds funneling into the storm, and behind it, it's kind of going the opposite way. So that's where any rotation would be, and if there is a tornado, it would likely be, again, just south and west of the Foreman's Hall vicinity right now. So again, if you're near Arsenault Road or any roads around that east of the vicinity, you definitely want to be in that safe place right now. So I'm going to take again, that information off the screen. We'll go back to velocity here just to see again whether we can see any sort of rotation here. And yeah, there's still definitely a little bit here. This is another velocity product that we like to use that actually takes out the motion of the storm itself, and actually gives you a better idea of what the true wind direction is here. So we can make out, again, basically in that same area that I just showed you on the regular vicinity, where that hook is, what we call in meteorology a hook echo. That's still going on here. So that's just south of the Arden Cemetery Road. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce any of the road names here, but that's the general area this hook is. Again, you have winds coming in from east to west direction on the north side of that, and the opposite, a west to east direction on the south side of that, where those red colors are. Where those two colors meet is where a tornado would be. So I'm going to take that information off the screen as well. Just give me a second here. And I'm actually going to do another zoom out here, and I'm trying to determine whether or not they extended the warning yet or not. Our partners at the National Weather Service are in charge of that and have been doing a great job of keeping on top of everything going on this crazy morning as well. But yeah, so here again, it's a wider zoom out here of the tornado warning storm we have going on. Thankfully, we haven't gotten any confirmation of tornado on the ground, at least as of yet. But the couplet here, the hook echo that we've been watching for, again, where a potential tornado would be. Again, it's just basically southwest of Foreman's Hall where that arrow is. So now I'm going to switch back to the regular radar here, and I'm going to do another storm track of this as it continues to slowly head off to the east-northeast around 15 miles per hour. So let me do another storm track here. This time it'll be a little bit closer. And again, it's continuing to move off to the north and east. And here's another estimate of the arrival time. So the Welsh vicinity is going to be at your location around 11:37. Welsh High School, 11:41 a.m. So if you are in those locations, definitely want to get to that safe place as soon as you can. Again, you want to put yourself between, or give yourself as many walls between yourself and the outdoors as you can. By Jennings, around 12:13 to 12:15. So do keep an eye on that if you are in the Jennings vicinity as well. I know right now Jennings proper is not technically in the tornado warning, but this is heading your way, and you'll definitely want to continue to keep an eye on that. After that, around 12:30, I do think the cell again will be out of our viewing area. So before I take a look at the rest of our viewing area, I'll still focus on this particular cell a little bit more. So let me take that off the screen. And I'll actually zoom back in. I do want to take a look at our debris tracker to see if there's any sort of debris that's being picked up by this cell. So again, let me take that information off the screen and get that product back up for you right now. So here's a look at one of our products we use to see whether or not there's any debris being picked up by any sort of potential tornadoes. And luckily here, I just don't see a whole lot, at least as of this moment, to really determine if there is any. Usually what we're looking for is an area where you have a very circular area with a deep blue or deep green color, what we would normally call a debris ball, which those different colors would typically mean that the radar's picking up on different objects being lofted in the air. Wherever you see those pinks and reds on the radar here, which is most of the picture, that's basically just rain droplets it's picking up on. And that's good news. Again, if you can't really cleanly make anything out like in sort of a debris ball here, that means we, at least from this product, can't confirm whether or not there's actually a tornado on the ground. So still, that is certainly very good news. It's just that we still do have at least some broad rotation here. I'll zoom back in. So if you're anywhere near Bellard Road, Daigle Road, Ardouin Cove Road, Todd Road off to the east, again, anywhere along those roads, or if you're near those roads, again, you need to be into your safe place as soon as you can. As many walls between yourself and the outdoors as possible. Also would not be a bad idea to either, if you have one readily accessible, have a pillow or maybe a bicycle or motorcycle helmet. Bring it with you just in case we do have a tornado that manages to touch down. Thankfully, right now, for the moment, we can't confirm one at the moment. But again, still, it is something we are going to continue to keep an eye on. Now, in addition to the tornado, again, or the tornado warning we have here, again, we can't confirm whether there's actually a tornado on the ground. We still have all this rainfall across southwest Louisiana. We still have that flash flood warning going on in Calcasieu Parish right now. Let me bring up our flash flood warning product here because I think this gives you a better idea of where it is. And again, you can make that out here in southwest Louisiana. Basically, this flash flood warning is in effect for basically the entire lake area here. That includes Lake Charles, Moss Bluff, Sulphur, Carless, South Lake Charles. All those locations are in that flash flood warning. Again, about 1 to 3 inches of rain has already fallen, and more will continue to fall across southwest Louisiana. And in addition to that, we've received pictures and information from the National Weather Service on our chat room that we monitor, that apparently there has been a spot or two off of Common Street where water is about 3 to 4 inches or 3 to 4 feet deep. And again, that's not something you really want at all to drive through. It's something that you really can't drive through at all. So this is why I really want to stress here that because we have all this rain going on, it's sometimes very, very difficult to judge the depth of any water out on the roadways. And even if it takes you a bit longer to get to wherever your destination is, please do your best to avoid those roadways and find an alternate route to wherever you need to go. So with that being said, I do want to take a look at the overall timing of some of the rest of this rainfall we have going on across southwest Louisiana. Models, unfortunately, have been up and down with the performance of the placement and timing and intensity of some of this rainfall. But here you can see again, we have this massive rain coming from the northwest to the south and east, and will continue pushing off to the southeast throughout the rest of the afternoon. So even between 1 and 3 o'clock, if you're especially along and south of I-10, we still could have the shower and thunderstorm activity ongoing. Maybe we start to get out of the thick of things north of I-10, but I think it's going to take until later in the afternoon for most of this rain to completely move out of southwest Louisiana. So the bottom line here is I do still think we at least have a few more hours of this activity to get through, again, especially if you're along and south of I-10 right now. So with that being said, let's bring up the radar again. We obviously still have that tornado warning ongoing in Jeff Davis Parish, and you can see the rest of the rainfall. We have a widespread area of moderate to embedded heavy rain extending across all of southwest Louisiana, and even still over into southeast Texas, where the edge of that ring is now only getting south of the Lufkin area. So that is moving off to the south and east. You can make out kind of the overall direction of that rain moving in a southeasterly direction. So that's why I still think we at least have a few more hours of all of this activity to go. And I do think as the more and more rain begins to fall over southwest Louisiana and accumulate, then we may even see more flash flooding issues than what we already have seen. So now let's take a look back at that cell over into Jeff Davis Parish here. And it still will go forward in time here up to around 1140. You can still make out kind of that hook echo-ish type shape here where you have an appendage of the overall thunderstorm cell we're watching extending off to the south. So basically that's what I mean here when I talk about a hook echo, kind of where winds flow in to the overall storm, which at least suggests to me there's probably at least some rotation still ongoing with this, again, southwest of the Lac-Cine area. So I'll take this off. I'll talk about first where things are in the clear, where this is off to the east, and at least we don't have to worry about tornadoes. So let me take this information off the screen. If you are in Lac-Cine proper, again, this system is moving off to the east. It's already to the east of your area. You are in the clear. If you're in Foreman's Hall, you are in the clear as well. Barrett, you are also in the clear. It's now areas off to the east of that where we still have to watch this for rotation. So that includes near the Welsh vicinity, which you're kind of on the edge of that tornado warning right now. If we put this into motion where we have the rotation or the potential rotation, that little hook, it's going to be very close. If we get lucky, it may end up just south of your area, but the last couple of frames, it looks like it's moving more off to the left. So you definitely, in the Welsh vicinity, still need to be in that safe place. And we see this sometimes too as cells kind of pick up in intensity and basically alternate their intensity. They sometimes can deviate to the left. So even if you're technically not in the tornado warning right now, which technically again includes some of Welsh, you still need to be on guard. You still need to be in that safe place. Maybe even north of I-10, north of Welsh, you need to continue to keep a very close eye on this as well. And this is what I mean. If we put it into motion here, the radar loop, you'll notice that now it's really moving off into basically a more northeasterly direction rather than an easterly direction. So with that in mind, I'm going to do another storm track. I'm actually going to zoom this out to give you an idea of where it is relative to the rest of Jeff Davis Parish. Again, this is still continuing to move very slowly, only around 15 miles per hour. So let me do another storm track here. And I'm going to try and account for more of that northeasterly motion that we have seen over the past few scans here. So if we put that into motion, here's another idea of that storm track, 1144 in the arrival time. So it would be near the Welsh vicinity around 1144. Again, that's the arrival time. So it would be in the Welsh vicinity around 1144, a few minutes. So basically you need to be in that safe place right now. If it continues off to the north and east and holds together, it'd be near the Raymond vicinity around 12 p.m., Hathaway around 12:02 p.m., and eventually after that, say closer to 12:15, it would eventually likely get out of our viewing area. But again, now that's moving into a more northeasterly direction rather than an easterly direction. Again, I do think if you're in the Welsh vicinity, you need to be into that safe place as soon as you can. Remember, put yourself between give yourself as many walls between you and the outdoors as possible. And obviously, you want to stay away from windows too. So I'm going to get this information off the screen. This tornado warning technically expires at 11:45. So if the National Weather Service does not deem it enough as a potential to drop a tornado within the next few minutes, that would mean they would expire the warning, and we would go back to regularly scheduled programming. I do hope that's what happens, but if it still remains a threat, then of course the tornado warning could be extended, and we likely will continue to cover it. So we'll have an update for you in just a few minutes. Once I have a better idea whether or not that tornado warning will be extended. But as the cell itself, you can still, again, make out that hook echo, that hook shape we've been tracking, so rotation still looks like it would be there to some degree. Let's take another look at the velocity and zoom in. Again, now this is near the, just north of Arduin Cove Road, just south of Able Road. That looks like it's Hill Road off to the east, and the immediate path of that. Again, if you're in those locations or near those roads, again, you want to be in that safe place basically right now, really, as soon as you can, if not. So now let's take another look at the velocity here, and you can still make out that rotation on both of our velocity products. In fact, it looks like it's actually tightened up a little bit within the past couple of minutes here. I'll take a look. I'll zoom into, again, what kind of road is here. LeBlanc Road, that's basically over your location right now. The rotation is where those bright green, those bright blue colors, and those red colors meet. So again, what we're watching here, winds coming from the northeast to the southwest direction, where those bright blue and bright green colors are. Let me do that again to give you a better idea of the rotation here. And then again on the opposite side of it, the southern side where those red colors near Arduin Cove Road is, that's winds that are coming from the radar, basically off to the southwest to the northeast. And where those winds, those arrows you see there meet, that's the rotation we're watching, and that's where any tornadoes, if there is one on the ground, that's where a tornado would form. So that's the rotation. That's in meteorology, we call that a couplet, where those colors meet, and that's where a tornado, if there is any on the ground, or maybe even just a funnel cloud or rotation, that's where that would be. I do want to bring up the the debris tracker product once again to see whether or not there's any debris, and it does look like the National Weather Service has extended that tornado warning. So basically they're saying at 11:44 a.m. a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Welsh, and it's moving even slower now, around 10 miles per hour. And it's going to be near the Welsh vicinity, again, between now and 11:50 a.m. this morning. So if you're in the Welsh vicinity, again, you need to be into that safe place right now. Thankfully, this tornado warning is what we call a radar-indicated warning. So the rotation is being picked up on radar. We don't really have a lot of, right now, a confirmation whether any tornadoes are on the ground. Again, that's good news, but still, since it certainly has the potential to produce a tornado, we've seen that rotation tighten up over the past few frames here. So this is something that we are going to continue to track as it moves off to the north and east. So there's where that rotation is. I'll take those arrows off the screen. Now let's bring up that debris tracker product and see if there's anything here. Again, this is good news here. We'll zoom out a little bit here, and I still don't see a real surefire area where you would say, okay, that's where you have debris lofted. I just don't see that, at least with this product here, which again, that is good news. Obviously, what we're looking for here is a circular area, a ball shape, where you have dark blue, dark green colors here, which indicates different objects that the radar is being picked up on, which would be thrown into the air. That's where debris would be. And thankfully, at least on this product, again, I don't see a surefire area where that is ongoing right now. So that is some very good news. And even on the last few frames here, I'll put this into motion. I mean, just trying to determine whether how this the cell, the couplet here, how it has evolved. And you can still see again where those red and green colors meet. There is still some rotation here. It's not overly impressive, but still, nevertheless, you can make out, again, kind of on the north side of the cell there, those red and green colors coming into play. That's where any rotation would be. And it still has held together over the past couple of frames, so it's not getting weaker. It doesn't seem to be ramping up in intensity that much, at least yet, kind of holding in a steady state. So certainly there is a potential that perhaps we can end up seeing a tornado. It would be near LeBlanc Road if there is anything. You guys, if that storm is basically over you need to continue to be into your safe place basically over the next few minutes to 10 minutes, excuse me, there. Now we'll take a bit of a zoom out here. We'll put the regular radar back on, and you can see that tornado warning now extends basically through all of the Welsh vicinity. It goes till noontime, 12 o'clock p.m. this afternoon, as that continues off to the north and east. And even Hathaway, you guys are technically not in the tornado warning yet, but certainly if we put this cell into motion, that's the overall direction that the storm is heading in. So you need to continue to keep a very close eye on this cell if you are in the Hathaway vicinity. Even Jennings, it may end up off to your north, but you still, I do think, need to continue to keep a close eye on this as well. So now we'll take another storm track here. Again, this is continuing to move off to the northeast around 10 miles per hour. And here's some of the arrival times. Again, Welsh Roanoke Junior High School, maybe closer to 12 o'clock at this point, but still it is something that is headed your way, and you still need to be in that safe place. 12:18 around Raymond, 12:25-ish around Hathaway, and again, I think around 12:30 is when the cell would move out of our viewing area. Again, that's provided it does hold together. So we'll take this information off the screen here. And you can see that cell, there is a bit of good news here. That the hook type shape that we have been tracking, that is usually a good indicator of where rotation is. It does look like that's began to broaden up a little bit. Right now that's basically near the Welsh vicinity, just south of Interstate 10. If we go back in time a few frames, you can make out that hook a lot better where it was more farther off to the south and west of the Welsh vicinity. And now it's kind of become more a part of the overall cell, which again is some good news here. It is a sign that potentially the storm is losing a bit of its organization that it had. But still, we are going to continue to keep a close eye on this, at least over the next few minutes. Again, the tornado warning itself only extends to around 12 o'clock p.m. And of course, we'll continue to keep an eye on that in the event that the tornado warning is extended. But again, the rest of our area, we do still have this area of moderate rainfall and embedded shower and thunderstorm activity. Some of that rain pretty heavy at times. So here's another look at all of this. You can make out the individual rain basically moving in an easterly direction. The massive rain we've been tracking over in southeast Texas pushing off to the south and east. So we still likely have at least a few hours of this to go, and I do think rainfall totals will continue to pile up. Let's take a look take another look at some of the rainfall totals we've had so far area-wide with our radar, and it's indicating once it decides to come up on screen. Okay, or it's not being very nice. So let's not do that. Bottom line, we've seen a general 1 to 3 inches, maybe some locations that have received more rainfall than that. We still have that flash flood warning out in effect in the Lake Charles area. Basically, all the lake area is included in this flash flood warning until 2 o'clock p.m. At least the good news is, for now, most of the rain in it maybe is more light to moderate, but even still, you see a thunderstorm and heavier rain moving over the airport, and more heavier rain extending off to the west, just to the west of the Carlos area near Benton. That too will likely move back over the warning area within probably the next half hour or so. So we're definitely not done with the rain yet, and in that flash flood warning, we are still likely to see additional rainfall begin to pile up. Again, we've already seen about 1 to 4 inches, maybe even higher totals are possible throughout the rest of the afternoon. So again, you just want to be able to avoid any flooded roadways that you can. It's very hard to judge the depth of water, so if you run into any flooded roadways, just find that alternate route around that and go to wherever you need to be. So with that being said, I'll take a bit of a zoom out here, and I do want to mention that the overall chance of severe weather the rest of the day still looks pretty low. I mean, there are some stronger thunderstorms ongoing in southeast Texas, but those are mostly, I think, going to move off to the south and east. In addition to that, we do have a thunderstorm ongoing near the Sabine Lake area. That's going to be approaching the Johnson Bayou area likely within the next 20 or so minutes. And this is something that will eventually approach Cameron within the next hour as well. So heads up, we are watching these thunderstorms. But right now, these don't seem as organized as what we've been watching in Jeff Davis Parish. A look at the velocity here. Again, that's nowhere near as impressive as that cell we had a few minutes ago. And I do want to stress that the overall severe chance of severe threat the next several hours, again, I think is pretty limited. It's not zero. It's not impossible we could see perhaps an isolated cell like the one near Bell City and Welsh spin up. But I do think that the chances of that are relatively limited, and the overall greater threat, the weather hazard here, I think will be flash flooding, and you can again see all that rainfall over the rest of southwest Louisiana. So I do want to take another look at this tornado warning in Jeff Davis here. Now it's basically moving over the Welsh vicinity, so you still want to be into that safe place basically right now, and extending for pretty much the next 10 or so minutes is when the Welsh vicinity will be dealing with this storm. We'll take another look at the velocity here. And this is some good news here. It looks definitely not as impressive as what it did when it was just south of the Welsh vicinity. In fact, this is what I'm talking about here. When it was kind of on the left edge of that tornado warning near Arduin Cove Road, you can make out where those blue and reddish colors were meeting. I'll put it in the middle of the screen. That was an impressive couplet there, but as we put the loop forward in time, you'll notice that it basically lost a lot of its definition as it moved towards Welsh. It does look like it broadened up quite a bit. There may still be a little bit of broad rotation here, but there just does not seem to be a tornado imminent on the ground right now. Of course, we'll let you know if that changes. A look at the debris product we look at still showing much of the same, where it doesn't really have any sort of a surefire look at where we would have any sort of debris. Again, the tornado warning itself, goes out to around 12 o'clock p.m. for areas north and east of the Welsh vicinity, as that continues to move off to the north and east. But again, at this point, it does look like the cell itself is weakening. The tornado warning, again, expires around 12 o'clock p.m., so because of the fact that it does not look as impressive as it did, I think we're just about set to go back to regularly scheduled programming. We do have 7 News at Noon coming up on KPLC, and of course we'll have another update with the weather here and what we can expect throughout the rest of the afternoon. There is that rain still continuing to move off to the east, and eventually will push through later on this afternoon. And of course, if the tornado warned storm we have in Jeff Davis Parish looks like it ramps up again, of course we'll be back on air talking about it and giving updates about it, but at this time I think we're ready to go back to regularly scheduled programming.